granted a licence to create a dog agility training ground on a piece of wasteland beside the canal. They cleared half the field, made a grassed area, erected a polytunnel so that they could use the area in winter, and covered a further area of woodchip, which isn't used because it's always waterlogged. Since then, Helen has used the field several times a week in the evenings and weekends to train her dogs and maintain the land. Helen has trained a Crufts winner and is currently training a young dog that will hopefully compete in Crufts. She can only do this by training several times a week. If she lost this facility, she would have to travel to either Harrogate or Leeds and would only get a limited amount of training done, which wouldn't be sufficient. 18 months ago, in June 2020, Salterford Parish Council discussed a request to take over this land for allotments. Without any consultation with Helen and the incorrect information that the land was no longer used, the request was passed to this committee. This committee discussed and approved the request to revoke the licence in November 2020, 15 months ago, without informing Helen either that the request was on the agenda or on the outcome of the decision, so she knew nothing about it. This can't be the correct process, that the licence holder isn't even informed that their licence is being discussed. The minutes of the West Craven meeting state the land is to be transferred to Salterford Parish Council for use as allotments for Salterford residents. During the winter months, the grass area and the other outdoor area on the field that's been cleared already are unusable because they're so wet. We believe the land is unfit for allotments as the ground is clay-based, it regularly floods due to its position along the canal and below the level of the canal, and there's lots of wildlife, such as rabbits and rats, that would devour anything that you attempted to grow. It's very sheltered as well, which means that it only gets the sun late in the afternoon, which isn't really suitable for growing vegetables and summer flowers. The other problem is that the access to the field is difficult, being quite a long distance from the car park near the Anchor Inn, and so users of the allotments would have to barrow in everything from the car park or from Culbrook Road down a steep path with steps and down to Canal Path and then down another steep bank. Helen was horrified to obtain a letter on Friday the 18th of February, which is 10 days ago, informing her the licence had been revoked and she must vacate the land by the end of March. Since then, we've tried to get on the agenda for the Salterford Parish Council meeting, but it was too late to get on the agenda, and we were allowed to speak to them, but not allowed to discuss the issue. We've sent a letter to Philip Mousdale and had no reply from him, and I tried to get onto this agenda, and it's been fixed, so my only recourse is to ask a question. The cleared area used for dog training is actually only half of the site that is licensed. So if the parish council really thinks it can be used for allotments, the land nearer the football playing field up to the overflow drain could be cleared and used for allotments. There could be access from the Salterford playing field using a path that could be created across the overflow. This would be a much easier access point than down the steep slope. We've written to Philip Mousdale, as I said, to request that either the notice period is extended so that we can follow the process to go through all the committees, or Helen could renegotiate her licence for the area she actually uses and leave the rest of the land for the allotments. But we haven't received a response. So my question is, what are you going to do to correct the injustice suffered by Helen, whereby a decision made based on incorrect information and with no consultation 15 months ago has resulted in a 4-week notice period, which is too short for us to do anything to get this resolved because we can't get on the agenda for any meetings. I think this is undemocratic and wrong.
Thank you very much. Do we know, has the land actually been transferred to Salterford Parish Council yet?
The land hasn't been transferred at this moment.
It hasn't been transferred. Yeah, I did get the information through from you, and we have been in touch and with Mr. Morsdale, and we can slow it down a bit so that will then give you chance to go back to Salterford Parish Council and discuss it with them, because as the land is being transferred over to them, it's not going to be in our remit to do anything about it. The only thing we can do is slow the transfer down a bit, which should give you time. Is that okay?
Yes, that would be brilliant. Thank you very much.
That's great. Councillor Witt.
Thank you, Chairman. I had asked if the issue could come on to the agenda this evening, but clearly that's not been possible. And I think the decision that was taken, supported by this area committee, but taken at the centre, was reasonable in the sense that Salterford Parish Council asked for a community asset transfer, and Pendle Council agreed to that taking place. It may well be that Salterford Parish Council are content, and there's nobody here from Salterford this evening, but it may well be that Salterford Parish Council are content for the occupants to enter into a licence for continued occupation when it is transferred. But I don't think we're in a position to speak for Salterford Parish Council, and it would be up to the current licence holder and the Parish Council to have those discussions. But I agree, I think that's the way forward.
Yeah. So is that okay?
That would be fine, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Have we got any other members of the public who wishes to ask a question that is not on the agenda? No? Okay, we'll move on. Minutes of the last meeting. Somebody move them, please. Thank you. Item 4, police and community safety issues. I'm afraid there's no police here tonight. So there's not a lot we can say on that. Item 5, ambulance response time. They are not coming tonight, but they've asked if we can defer this to the next meeting where they can send somebody, because they would like to talk through the figures with us in person. So is that okay, everybody?
Yeah.
Item 6, planning matters. First one is Gisborne Road Nursery, Gisborne Road Barlick. Who wants to start on this one? Have you anything to add, Mr. Watson?
Well, Chairman, it is in many ways a minor variation to the times. It's half an hour before and so 7:30 start. Daylight or the normal working day is considered to be 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. and they wanted to change the hours from 8 to 5:30, from 7:30 till 5 o'clock. Chairman, it seems on face value relatively straightforward.
Okay. Any comments?
I'll move that, we approve that.
Okay, is that seconded? Yep. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. The next one, Brogden Lane, that one has been withdrawn. So we'll go on to the next one, My Dentist, Harrison Street. I've got Mr. Smith here. I can give you 5 minutes to speak. You've got the floor.
Thank you. I sat on the report of site comprises a single-storey flat.
Chairman, I'm sorry, do you want to come forward? I'm having difficulty hearing you.
Yeah, sure, sorry, I'm trying to speak. I set out to the report the site comprises a single-storey flat roof building used as a dental practice. Permission is sought for the construction of a first-floor pitched roof extension. The proposals would allow an increase in the number of consulting rooms. The proposal would also formalise the existing parking layout and create 10 new parking spaces on the adjacent land, 15 spaces in total. The application site is located within an area bordered by residential properties and public open space close to the town centre. The principle of use has already been established at the site, and the applicant seeks to expand and enhance its services. The practice operates 2 premises in the town at present, including the application site. The existing building has 2 consulting rooms with ancillary facilities. The other premises in the town also has 2 consulting rooms, which it is proposed to relocate to the application site. A total of 6 consulting rooms would be provided at the application site, with improved facilities for both staff and customers. The proposal would support the retention, enhancement and expansion of a local healthcare business that serves the local community, making efficient use of the existing building in a highly sustainable urban location, which is accessible on foot, bicycle and public transport. The scale of the proposed extension will not be out of keeping with the surroundings, and indeed there would be a positive enhancement to the appearance of the site. There will be no loss of residential immunity due to the position of the building in relationship with the building with neighbouring properties. There would also be no adverse harm to highway safety. The proposal will comply with local planning policy by retaining existing local practice and allowing it to modernise and develop, helping to achieve an improved service for the local community. We respectfully request that members support the proposed amendment to approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm fully supportive of the provision of further dental facilities within West Craven and at Harrison Street. And I know that in the design statement that accompanied the application that the premises on Park Avenue would be taken out of use, which I think, given its residential, very residential nature, is welcome. I don't know whether that could be bound up within the planning consent that's given, or whether you know, that could continue whatever the outcome of this application. I have a great deal of difficulty with the proposed parking provision. I think that in planning terms, the long line of parking spaces along part of the frontage of Harrison Street would be inappropriate. Now, separately, this committee has considered the land use as the current owner of that land. However, a couple of years ago, it was agreed that the plot of land which this planning application includes for the parking would be community asset transferred to Barnoldswick Town Council, and that transfer is underway. So you've got a mixture of Pendle Council as current landowner, Barnoldswick Town Council as prospective landowner, and the applicants here having an interest in the land. Now, there was an agreement at the last meet, I think it was, for us to convene a meeting of the interested parties to discuss that land use, not the planning issues relating to this, because we keep the two separate. But it would seem to me that in order not to create a rod for our own backs, that it would be sensible for us to defer this for a site visit. That would give the opportunity then for those other considerations to be taken into account, and to see if there's any way forward in terms of a sensible solution to the parking problems. Now, I fully appreciate that that would lead to some delay in the planning process, but I note that this has already gone beyond its expiry date, so in a sense we're out of time. The applicants could lodge an appeal on the basis of non-determination. So my suggestion would be that we defer for a site visit, and separately we convene the meeting and see whether there's any way forward in terms of the parking provision. In planning terms, Harrison Street is very difficult in that it's a cul-de-sac. It serves quite a lot of properties. There are also people who use the road to drop children off going to school in the vicinity, and of course there's a dentist as well. And so it's not an ideal location for additional parking in any case. And I would, you know, with the planning hat on, be concerned about that intensification of use and as well as the visual impact of the parking on that amenity land. So, Chairman, I move that we defer for a site visit and we consider it again at the next meeting.
And did you say that you wanted to meet with the developers?
Well, Chairman, if you recall,
We were going to meet with them.
Yeah,
weren't we?
yeah. So
Yeah.
we've already got a resolution to meet with all the interested parties, which is Pendle Council, the developers, the Town Council. Yeah,
Yeah, is it going to be possible to arrange that meeting before our next meeting?
I would think
I
so.
think,
I thought so.
yeah,
So we're
yeah,
end of the month.
yeah, because we do have another meeting at the end of this month, which is unusual. Councillor Whip.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it is crucial we get the parking sorted. I mean, the current proposal on the plan is inadequate for a number of reasons. I mean, predominantly it is the land use, it is amenity land gifted to the town as such. I think as well it shouldn't be allowed to have cars overpassing the pavement there. I mean, it's a major route for walking to school, it's a major route to get to that play area. There's a lot of small children using that pavement, and to have cars overrunning that pavement to parking spaces, I think, especially along that long length, it's not a controlled small passing point, it's along the entire length, isn't it? So I think that poses an unacceptable risk to pedestrians, as well as the issues I've outlined with the actual land use itself. So if we can seek an agreement elsewhere, we've talked previously about the plan for parking just around the corner. I'm sure that would be a lot better solution. So I'll second.
Okay. Councillor Bell.
Yes, I'd just like to agree with what's been said. I mean, that area, during summertime, now it's coming lighter weather, there's more children using that land, and smaller children we're talking about. We're not talking teenagers here. It only takes that split second and they could be knocked down. I mean, it is inadequate, is that there, and it's very bad for parking. You're parking both sides of the roads all around that area. And I do feel that we should have this site visit ASP and then let's sort something out.
Okay, so the proposal is that we defer this,
Yeah.
and if we could combine the two, a site visit with meeting with the developers on site. Yeah, kill two birds with one stone. Yeah. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Everybody in agreement? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to defer it for a site visit, meet with the developers before our next meeting at the end of March. Okay, moving on. Short and sweet. Appeals. Anything on 6B? No. No. Okay. 7. Enforcement action. Anything on this one? Anybody wants to fetch up? No?
Chairman, just on number 2, the Bournemouth Road, they've got 6 months to comply, so we'll change the dates for the next meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Gospel Hall, are we getting any nearer with this? It seems to be going on and on. Gospel Hall.
I'm not got an enforcement officer, so hopefully we can progress a lot more enforcement matters. So he's getting on with stuff. So yeah, I'll bring something back for this time,
Thank you.
for next meeting.
Anything else on enforcement action? No? Okay, moving on. Capital programme. We've got 2 bids in. One off Salford Parish Council. Purchasing of 4 tables.
I move that we
Yeah.
approve that.
Councillor Belfort.
I note that there is no match funding on this. I'll just put that point too. Usually that's been a standard requirement. In fact, there's no match funding declared on either of these 2. Having said that, I've got no objections, but usually they get kicked back if there's no match funding. But so be it.
Yeah.
Chairman, I just picking up on what Mike said, I don't think that there's necessarily been any requirement for match funding. I mean, I think both of these requests are reasonable. They're, you know, a benefit, public benefit within the respective villages, and they serve a good purpose. I would note the resolution of the council in respect of the budget, which within the capital programme there's a caveat about funds not being carried over and slippage not being acceptable beyond 12 months. So I think it is incumbent to ensure that these funds are invested in, you know, decent schemes, and we don't want to lose the funding. And if we look at the table, out of a possible for AB and Courts Ward, out of a total of 15,745, we've managed to allocate 2,100. So, you know, there's a lot of funding there that is yet to allocate, and we are, what, 30 days away from the end of the financial year.
Chairman, hence the reason why I said so be it, but we've always asked for match funding. I haven't got a problem with this. David was absolutely right. We have to use it, but I am flagging it up.
Yeah, that's fine. But it has been through finance also for it.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise it would be here.
Okay, so
I'm happy with it.
yeah, everybody in agreement? Yeah, okay. Next one, Kelbrook and South Village Hall.
Similarly, move that
Yeah.
one, Chairman.
Yeah, no problem with that. Everybody in agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's passed. Okay. Right, item 9, highways issues.
Sorry, at the last meeting, further information was requested on the Bonalswick Town Square project. I did email members
Right, thanks.
with an update.
Yeah, we've not got no further information on that one. Just it's going to come to another meeting.
Well, the start date is given us a start date when they're coming back.
Alright, 21st of March to complete the outstanding works, including the bollards. They will resume the remainder of the flagging works on 28th of March and work through until fully completing the scheme. Okay?
Sorry, Chairman. I'll be delighted when they return.
Won't we all?
Could I comment on the other two?
Yeah.
Sorry, no, we're not next item.
We're still on item 9. Anything on this one? Yeah, Councillor Wick.
So on the request for a concrete apron, LCC advised that concrete aprons are not used on tarmac roads, only bitback. I think the request is to upgrade that section of the road to a concrete road, not just... I mean, I understand they don't put a layer of concrete over bitback, but I mean, it's a bus stop, you know, it needs a proper court. So I think we tell them, sorry, that's inadequate. It's only going to get like it again, and they'll be scraping it out, refilling it. When we want it replaced with a concrete road in that section.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to second that. Also, I think a concrete would last longer than tarmac, and if it's where they come back with tarmac, I'll send them all on LCC with tarmac and the roads at the moment, but I'll totally second what you've said on there, and let's have it looking right for the pedestrian. We don't want anybody falling or having an accident.
So what do you want to do with this one then? Send it back to them?
LCC.
Go back to LCC?
Yes, please. And
Yeah.
I'll have a go as well at them.
Chairman, can I support that? But I'm not sure you'll be able to see this picture very well, but they have done a bitmap patch, which, I mean, bitmap in itself is very soft, and that's principally why the heavy buses and the frequent buses sort of deform the carriageway and cause the problems. But this picture here, sorry, I realise it's quite small, illustrates that they didn't even do the whole of the section that was defective, and before the patch there's a whole you know, sort of maybe 6 metres where, you know, it's like life and the ocean wave, and they haven't touched that bit, so it really is inadequate on a whole set of different levels, really. Even within the terms of using bitmap, the thing is poor. But I fully agree with, you know, it would be sensible to have a proper apron for the buses, which would be more resistant to that deformation and the trips that it currently causes.
I did, yes, Madam Chairman, I did report this for them to come out and do the path of the road there and patch it all up, what they did, but they didn't do, like we said, further up. But if we carry on like this, we'll be coming back. I mean, the old road wants doing, and I have spoken with the cabinet member about it and all the other officers in highways to get this road resurfaced and done.
Right, you want to...
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll remind Jenny of the visit we had on the 31st of January, where the Cabinet member did actually visit the site and agreed that it should be concrete plinth because of its situation and because of its high torque usage. So the Cabinet member's aware of it. We spent a couple of hours looking at the issues, and that was the number one issue we pointed them in the direction of. So they've, in principle, the Cabinet member's on our side, so I would suggest that we have another go back and remind them that the Cabinet member has visited and had discussions with both Jenny and myself on site. So.
Okay, so do you want to do it from, are you going to do it in...
No, it's got to come from here.
This committee.
Come
from this committee, right to LCC and say you haven't done what you said you're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, right, okay.
Chairman, in respect to the second issue, and this is very much adjacent to the carriageway issue that we've been talking about. It is the case that County Council came and inspected the flanks around what I call the post office corner. Perhaps I call it the old post office corner nowadays. The only work that they've done is they've replaced, sorry, Paul's looking anyway, they've replaced a cracked flag with a patch of concrete, which is about 16 inches square. Now, the problem in that vicinity, there is a bit of unevenness on those flags, but the main issue is the bitmap area, which runs round the front of the properties, and that area has had significant subsidence over the years. I assume it was put there in 1958 when the post office opened, and it's been there for well over half a century. Not that long ago, there was an elderly lady fell because of the unevenness, and she actually fell on a manhole that was raised up about that much, and it's not that the manhole has lifted, it's the rest of the surrounding area that has sunk. And unfortunately, she lay there, I think it was 3.5 hours before the ambulance came, and she suffered a broken hip. Now, that particular problem, United Utilities came and sorted out, and it transpired. They said, well, actually, it isn't our responsibility. We think it's a highway responsibility. But by that time, they'd already done the work, and they'd replaced that lid with another one, and they'd sort of sorted it so that it you know, it sort of levels it out around it. So the particular issue with that manhole lid has been resolved, but the general problem of the up and down and the significant changes of level hasn't been done. So again, I mean, I think the county council have done, you know, sort of 16 inches by 16 inches, and really we're talking about, you know, something that 60 foot by 16 foot, and you know, it's a much more significant issue. So I wonder whether you know, we could have a proper dialogue about the real issues in that location. And the other issue that there is, not connected to the surface, well, only in a physical sense, is the condition of the pedestrian guardrails, which have now had, well, 2 or possibly even 3 collisions, and there are metal bars jutting out into the pavement, which have been reported on numerous occasions to LCC, but they've never dealt with them, and I wonder whether we could pick that up as well. So it's the broken pedestrian guardrails immediately adjacent to the pavement area that we're talking about.
Okay, back.
Yeah, I mean, Councillor Whip's correct. I had a good look at it on the 31st. There's a lot of subsidence there. If it is a conservation area, then they will patch temporarily, but it's wider than that. We have an agreement with them that they must replace the flags correctly in a conservation area, and not tarmac them and leave it forever or whatever, or yes, get rid of the trip hazard. Again, it was one of the items that was discussed in detail with the cabinet member for highways. He fully understood the state of it, and it was not in an acceptable condition. Secondly, to which we had quite a lengthy conversation about the fact that those railings generally in that area of the crossroads, you know, are always under a bit of attack, and he saw the damage firsthand, and he said, I'll go away and discuss it with the team accordingly. So I think it's worth mentioning again that this is quite a large area. It's in a prominent position. It has, I mean, there is clear visible subsidence there. Whether that is caused by some utilities underneath, I don't know. But certainly it needs progressing. So I would suggest you put that together with the fact that the cabinet member responsible, County Councillor Charlie Edwards, is fully aware of it and has inspected and seen both that site as well.
And so we ask them what we're going to do about it.
Well, yeah, I think it's not just about patch and mend, as David says. It's really the whole thing wants doing. Otherwise, it'll never be put right. And they are fully aware of it.
Right, okay. Well, we can write to them and ask them what we're going to do about it and when.
And if they respond back in a negative manner, then we've got something we can put down and say, well, hang on a minute, you said one thing one day
Then do it.
Change your mind.
and not doing it another.
Okay, that okay with everyone? Yeah. Okay, item 10, balcony of town centres.
Chairman, it's the figures here, almost all spent up. It's very difficult balancing it all out because it's not, you don't put a bid in and then you get paid for the bid, you get an amount to spend. So there's 237, you can't spend over, so I think that's a pretty good effort to get it down to that level. That's the balance remaining of the fund.
I'm getting a bit confused now, Chairman. With what? Yeah, I'm just looking at that. It says the remainder £1,933.35.
I queried that with Mike today. He's not done that. If you look, he's put that in the carryover. It's the 237 on the left hand, just above your thumb. That I got confused with that. Because I thought there was a remainder, but there isn't. That is actually spent.
Okay.
So the balance is £237.
Right. Can I
You say you
return
want
to me?
spend it, don't you?
Well, no, I mean, I think there might be a necessity to spend it, but pardon the pun, a perennial problem, and it's the planters, the amberol planters. And you recall several meetings ago, I thought that we got extremely good value for money. The planters from amberol only costing us £501.20, and then it turned out that only the half moon planters had been purchased, and the hanging basket element, the 8 large hanging baskets and 8 smaller hanging baskets hadn't been purchased. And then Mr. Watson said he'd do some sort of califudging and sort that out, which we were very grateful about. And it was, I think, sort of 11th of February that Bonaldswick Town Council had a hired van, and I arranged to go and pick up the hanging baskets from the yard at Mr. Walker's Fleet Street Depot. So trotted down to Fleet Street Depot, and yard man said, "Oh, I'll go and get forklift," and I said, "Great stuff," and he forklifted it into the back of this truck, and I trotted off to the nursery that plants all these baskets up, and they came with their forklift, and I said, just before we, let's have a look and see that everything's okay. So opened up the first pallet, and there's, and forgive me for going into all these technical details, but there are the reservoir outers for the pole planters, but there weren't the inserts, which are the actual thing that gets planted into. In amongst those, there were some brackets, which are for use if they're going on a building, which we don't need. So I said, I'm sorry, but the bit that you need isn't here. And I then opened up the second pallet, cut the polythene at the top, and there are 16 wrong hanging baskets, which are completely different design to the cup and saucer hanging baskets that match all the rest of them. So I said, these are wrong too, but I ain't going to be able to keep them, can I leave them here? So I left them there. They too had some brackets that we don't need because they're hanging and we don't have building, all that sort of stuff. So I emailed, as it happened, it was Neil Yates, and said, Neil, I picked these up, but just about everything is wrong, and can we get it sorted out? So my first question is, clearly they have been ordered and presumably there's authority to pay for them. But my second question is, how soon will all this get resolved? And if there isn't the funding to actually pay for any difference between what was supplied and what should have been supplied, where's that going to be funded from? And it might be that £237 figure that Mr. Watson just referred to is where it comes out of. So I throw it over through you, Chairman, to Mr. Watson.
So have we got the images at Fleet Street? Did they just not get collected? No?
No,
No.
no.
Chair, if I'm honest, it's the first I've heard that there is this problem. I thought it had been resolved. I have to speak to Mike, who's done all the ordering. What I do know is there's no extension of time beyond the end of this month at all. So
Right,
it
well,
has
I mean,
to- it has
all
to
he
be-
needs is the inners for his baskets.
Well, inners
Yeah.
and then 16 correct baskets rather than the 16
Right.
incorrect baskets.
Can we ask the question and then get back to council with the answer, please, as soon as?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it have to be done very, very quickly, as I said,
Yep.
because otherwise we cannot extend the purchasing time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, surely it's a case of swapping the wrong baskets with the right baskets.
One would have thought so.
And that ain't going to alter the, I presume, the cost, other than you may have to add a bit more to it for the
Yeah.
units.
Yeah. Okay. Right, we'll do that. Okay. Item 11. NHS proposal to replace the Butts Clinic with a new facility. Councillor Goldthorpe.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of comments about this since Andrew Stevenson's bit was put out and about. The question I would ask, irrespective of whether this is good or bad, is has any feasibility study been done on enlarging and developing the current site at Butts by the NHS? That's the question I would like to understand. And if it hasn't, then perhaps it should have been. There may well be good enough reasons for not doing that, but I think that would be one of the questions, if we're going to be consulted on this, that I'd like an answer on, i.e. has a feasibility been done about enlarging and developing the current Butts site, which is semi-derelict in many respects and is not being used anyway to its full potential. Whether this is the right way forward is another argument. The other issue with that, of course, is that if that site was developed and the feasibility study stacks up, what would we do as a temporary measure while that site was being developed to offer acceptable health facilities in Barnoldswick? So that would be the sort of question, whether you like this idea or not. I would have thought that would have been the first question asked. So that would be my view of it. The consulting us on this came out of the blue. I hadn't been aware of anything like this, and it was sent to Pendle Borough, I think, in terms of asking for consultation. So that would be my observation. Whether this is right or wrong, we would all like an all singing, all dancing, state-of-the-art, future-proof facility for Barnoldswick, but I'd like to understand whether they've done that feasibility and whether that would be deliverable anyway.
Okay. Councillor
Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Goldthorpe's saying, and also the site that they are proposing, this bank building. Many years ago, when we did have a bank there was problems with the disabled entrance because nobody could get in that bank. They had to put a ramp outside, and then they decided if they could get a ramp around open the side, put a door around the side, and they couldn't do that. But as I look at this, it's the old clinic. I mean, I spent many a young time down there in the nursery. Looking at the size of the grounds and everything, this would be far more acceptable for the people of Barnoldswick. I mean, we're a growing town now. We've over got 40, 60 houses going down our way. And when you think of that, all these people, I mean, to go into a smaller place like that, why can we not have a state-of-the-art in Craven, as Craven? I mean, why should we have to travel to Colton, Nelson, or even Airedale, Skipton? If we have that, it's quite ample. We could make that into a really good health centre.
Okay, Councillor Wick.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the proposal to create some health facilities in the old Yorkshire Bank is appalling. The it's on a number of different levels, and Jennifer has just highlighted one of them in terms of access. But that upbuilding is so cramped that swinging the proverbial cat in it would be difficult, and the amount of space that there would be and the clinics that could be serviced from there would be a fraction of what had previously been provided at Bucks Clinic itself. And it's all very well. I mean, the document that's been supplied by NH Property Services details the current occupancy, or what the current occupancy would be. But that ignores all the services that have come out of that building over the years and have ended up being provided in Colne or even further afield. Now, where we sat tonight, the Raynor Centre, there's Burnley midwives operate from here. There's a treatment room which hasn't been in use during the pandemic. They moved all those treatment wound dressing services over to Colne. We have the diabetic eye clinic that comes in here, and overall the health services in Barnoldswick are fragmented between Butts Clinic, this building, and the Barnoldswick Medical Centre, the surgery just down the road. Now, for years we've been calling for a purpose-built health centre that would accommodate all the health service provision under one roof. And within my lifetime, we've seen Colne get not one, but two health centres. The older one getting knocked down and being replaced by the new one. And it just beggars belief that we are palmed off with second best in Barlick. Surely we can achieve that health centre fit for purpose in the 21st century, fully accessible and providing a full range of services. It really isn't acceptable for people in West Craven to have to travel to Colne, to Nelson, to Burnley and beyond in order to access the health services which, under the rubric of the NHS, should be provided at a neighbourhood level. So the proposal to go into the old Yorkshire Bank is unacceptable because of its cramped nature, because of its poor access, and because of the wider issues of access, where there wouldn't be any nearby parking to say somebody who's disabled, things like that. So, it's a really awkward place to try and provide that sort of facility. Now, in the past, and I'm talking about the recent past, Pendle Council has offered sites to the NHS. Across the road, we've got the Raynor Road car park. Now, that is reasonably well used nowadays, but it would be perfectly possible to build a health centre at the first floor level and to have parking beneath the building, such as there is at Sainsbury's at Colne. So we wouldn't lose any parking, but we would have an accessible centre which you could have level access off Sussex Street, and that would be a really sensible solution, and that could accommodate the doctors and the clinics that are provided by a whole range, a whole raft of different health service providers. And I think that's the sort of thing that we ought to be demanding. Another possible option would be the police station, which isn't really used as a police station nowadays, and it might be possible to do something with that. There are some other options which may or may not be possible, and they might be less easy to accomplish. But why on earth should we be so short and accept something that it doesn't meet a fraction of the need and doesn't provide a fraction of the services that local people really expect to be provided on the doorstep? And that's the sort of response that I think we ought to be sending back. I think, you know, the feasibility study idea, you know, that's fine, but I think we should couple that up to a much more strongly worded resolution that outlines the problems that we foresee with the proposal and the opportunities and the options for doing something so much better on land that Pendle Council can offer to actually make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you picked up. The points I was going to raise around particularly the access and the parking, and while I appreciate that something really needs to be done with that building, this isn't the solution. This is a half-baked effort. I'm a little concerned about the bit on the front page that says since 2018 the NHS Property Services has been working alongside stakeholders. That suggests this has been going on for quite a while, and if this is the best they're going to come up with in 4 years, I'm a bit concerned by that. As a governor at Airedale, I can ask the question of Airedale as to what particular part they've had to play in this solution and how they think that this is a good solution for providing for patients for across there. So I'll take that back to Airedale as a governor and ask how this came to be from their perspective, and see what goes on with that. But I would otherwise agree with everything that's been said.
Also, I'll just put before that, I will also take it back to Airedale as being on the board of governors as well to find out.
I don't think anybody said that we're going to accept this. They've asked for our consultation. I think it's quite clear what our view would be. I think, as Councillor Whip says, that it's been going on for a long time. I don't know what the answer is. Whether we will get an all singing, all dancing that we deserve is another question. But certainly, I would want to know again. We can say no to this by the great. It's easy to say no. That would be our view, having been asked to consult on it. And we would like an all singing, all dancing, fully covering all the requirements for Barnoldswick and its surrounding villages. That's straightforward. But I would like to know whether feasibility has been carried out on the Butts side, which may or may not be capable of delivering what we would like to see. But having not achieved what we would want over an extended period, I think we could genuinely ask NHS Property Services or whatever why that is, why they've not looked at the wider issue. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. They've consulted certain stakeholders, and it's come to us now at that initiative. I agree that the old disused bank on the corner of a street with no parking perhaps is not good. And I also note that the midwifery are losing their option of using the local surgery as well at the moment. So there is continued pressure, and in the short to medium term, we've still got a major problem in West Craven. So send it all back.
Quite agree with you.
But watch this space would be my suggestion. I don't think we're going to get the answers back that we would like.
No. Okay. Councillor.
Yeah. Just on the back page, under the pros listing, it says disposal of Barnoldswick Butts Clinic to generate a capital receipt. So I mean that's the major reason why they're not using the pre-existing site. If it is going to produce a capital receipt, I don't see why that can't be used to build a new building.
Absolutely.
No doubt it, yeah, it'd just be lost otherwise.
Okay, so you've got all those comments?
Yeah.
Yeah. Strong wording letter that it's wrong building in the wrong place.
Sorry, Chair, just one last question. Can I ask Joanne, actually, do you have an electronic version of this that you could send to me that I can think about it with a paper copy? Thank you. No, I've got this. It's just I want an electronic one if I'm going to send it to her. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chairman, when Joanne drafts the response, perhaps it could be circulated to all committee members and
Before we
can
send it off. Yeah,
beef it up
yeah.
as necessary.
Yeah, yeah, can do that and make sure we haven't missed anything. And then if you've anything else to add, just email Joanne. Okay? Alright, moving on. Item 12, Warmsgate Methodist Chapel. Sorry, Jennifer.
Yes, we've secured £8,000 for doing this job at Warmsgate Chapel, but they are shortfall of about 1,400. It is 400 and some pounds.
2,000.
Yeah, well, it's 1,000. I've sent an email to Gareth saying that he's to fill in a form for a grant, and I'm quite prepared to use some of my capital off that, so that we can get on with the job.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Do we know if that total is including the engineering fees?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that for certain.
I've got an email. I'll send it, if you give me your email, Tom, I'll send it to you.
I'm sure you know it. Right, okay. Well, I'd move that we allocate the £2,000, up to £2,000 this meeting from the Van Olswick Fund.
We're at 2,000, is it?
It's up to 2,000.
Up
Up to 2,000.
Yeah.
Whatever it needs.
Yes, whatever they need. We're quite happy.
Yeah, happy about that?
Yes, quite happy
Yeah,
about that.
okay, everybody in favour? Yeah. Okay. Item 13, environmental blight. Anything on this one? Nothing? No? Right, move on then. Noted. Item 14. Items for discussion. Burgett Chapman Court, Morlick. Yeah, councillor.
Chairman, I think I did submit a picture of this to Joanne. Forgive me if I didn't, but the strip of land referred to is a strip of grass verge, which I'm not quite sure if it's a service strip or you know, like an unmade pavement,
Right.
but it's causing a nuisance, and I think the sensible thing to do would be to have a proper investigation of its circumstances and options that there may be to deal with it, either by surfacing or otherwise ensuring that it isn't a muddy mess that people are just parking on.
Right. Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, the proposed TRO on Albert Road.
Chairman, with this one, I think it's incumbent upon us to make comment tonight. The consultation on this ends on, I think it's the 11th of March, so this is the only opportunity that we've got. Now, I did send all the details through to Joanne, and I'm sure that most local representatives will be familiar with the issue. And there are two elements to this. The first element is a new order that would prohibit vehicular access along Albert Road entirely from 10 a.m. through till 4 p.m. On a weekday, and that access out after 4 p.m. and before 10 a.m. would be limited to any loading or unloading. Now, on the face of that, you know, sounds quite reasonable. We don't want cars driving through Albert Road. However, Chairman, it's got all sorts of catches with it. Now, the first catch, and I've asked the engineering services manager if he could confirm that this is the case or not, is my understanding is that the section of Albert Road between Ellis Street and Frank Street was stopped up when the town square was created and ceased to be a part of the highway maintained at public expense. Therefore, technically, a traffic regulation order cannot be put on a highway that isn't maintained at public expense. Now that's a technicality. However, the practical issues are that there are a number of businesses on there and they depend on getting deliveries. Now, they can't organise a delivery company, whether it's carpets, food deliveries or the like. They can't organise those deliveries to come before 10 o'clock in the morning or after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There might be a wagon with 40, 50 drops on, and they come to Barnoldswick when they come to Barley. So certainly 3 businesses on there have contacted me and said, look, this is just going to be impossible. And it's not only deliveries, but I mean, in terms of the carpet shop, it's also a case of them picking stuff up and going out and fitting carpets and the like. So it's unreasonable, it's unrealistic to expect that that 10 till 4 exclusion zone would be possible for any of the businesses depending on those deliveries. The second thing, Chairman, with that is, and this is moving on to the other issue, is that part of the order would introduce or reimpose a one-way section on part of Frank Street, which may have been on paper in the past, but has never been there in practice. And I think there are some practical implications for that, which are unfortunate, but in terms of the street scene, the introduction of more one-way systems would require the installation of lots of new poles, and we've just spent quite a lot of effort trying to get rid of street furniture, not have yet more poles with rules and regulations and the like, which, in terms of the ambience, the aesthetics, the amenity of the town centre are really undesirable. Now, I think we do have issues of inappropriate use of Albert Road. There are instances where people drive through, they shouldn't be driving through, and I think that goes back to the unfinished business that we have in terms of the town square works, where currently there are 2 heady bollards which are, one of them you can't remove because it's jammed in, but there are heavy bollards which are really difficult for people to handle, and to take them out and put them back in is clearly too much for some people to do. And the town square scheme, when it's completed, touch wood, within this month, you never know, will include some lightweight bollards with a dedicated place to put them, and then you can put them back. And I think with proper management and the shopkeepers and their delivery drivers doing the right thing, that the traffic that shouldn't be on Albert Road, on that section of Albert Road, will be kept out of Albert Road. So I think, you know, if there's there is a problem, then that management, physical management, will prevent the inappropriate use. And in support of opposing this order, I would ask people to look at the accident record, because we just do not have a record of people being injured as a consequence of the current things. And what's happened over the years is, you know, people have used the road in the way that they do now for loading and unloading, and you know, it hasn't led to thankfully anybody being killed or anybody being injured, to my knowledge. So if there ain't a problem, don't fix it. And so for all those reasons, I think that this committee ought to oppose the orders. We ought to say, look, you know, there are all these problems, and I won't go through them again, and that we believe the situation could be far better managed through the use of the bollards, which will physically prevent through traffic and allow the necessary delivery of goods to the businesses.
Because wagons can't decide to go before 10 and after 4. Like I said, you know, we're having a lot of vehicles on the road. We've got to go so many places. Jennifer?
Yeah, I'd like to agree with Councillor Whip on this. As an ex-shopkeeper on Frank Street, I can't recall anybody having any accidents apart from people having to reverse and park in between cars and bumping one another. It's been rather interesting watching people parking. But as I said, Barnoldswick is noted round that town for not having any road traffic accidents. And like Councillor Whip said, and I'm saying the same thing because of the shop traders, that I can't dictate to the driver delivering goods whether he's coming at 10 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever time he goes, but I'll second whatever Councillor Whip.
Okay, so we'll oppose this order on Albert Road. Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
And the one-way bit on
And
Frank
the one-way
Street.
bit on Frank Street. Okay, item for discussion. Right, outstanding items.
Chairman, are we going to have a substantive report on the committee? I mean,
Yeah.
I know Joanne emailed through bits and bats of information, but presumably we'll get a substantive report on the committee agenda in due course, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, outstanding items. Victoria Road AV, have we got any update on that one? No.
No, Chair.
No. Traffic issues on Skipton Road, still waiting update from LCC.
We are, Chair.
Lancashire Hours, response requested to addition of gullies. No response on that.
I think Councillor Wood and some dealings with Lancashire County Council or engineers highlighting the issues.
Well, we all highlight the issues.
I've highlighted a lot as well.
Yeah.
So then, no, Chair.
No? Okay. Well, West Close, Lorry Park, I believe LCC has got funding on the 17th for this. So it's going to the P&R, isn't it? On
Yeah,
the 17th.
Yeah, the Lancashire County Council came back with the agreement to fund, I think it was £12,000, so it's returned to policy resources for and central.
Chairman, you recall at Policy and Resources, there was a refusal, and we called that in.
Yeah.
There's a call-in meeting, I think it's next Monday, and there'll be subsequent discussion at P&R, so hopefully we'll get that resolved to our satisfaction.
Well, it should bear some weight. We're getting some funding from LCC as well, so that should go in its favour as well. Water supply pressure in Kelbrook, we're still waiting of Yorkshire Water for a meeting. Still not got back to us. No. It's like
Chairman,
treading
there
water
was a previous request for a meeting with Yorkshire Water in respect to the problems with sewers. We should have that on the list as well.
Well, we can combine it with that one, the water supply pressure.
We'll
If
find
we can tell
that
them,
Yorkshire
can we
Water.
go back to them and say, look, this is going stupidly down. We need a meeting with you urgently.
Chairman, you'll find that there are two bits of at least two bits of Yorkshire Water. There's clean water side and there's wastewater side. So it's two different sets of people, unless we're talking to Chief Executive who's over both.
You never know. We might get a look at.
Yeah.
I'll chase Gareth Asby. I mean, it's Gareth that it was actioned out to, so we'll
Please,
see
if you could, for both of them. Euravia still has not got back to us. They won't meet with us, will they?
Mickey Duck has written to Euravia formally,
Again.
so we'll see what they come
So we're
back
still
with.
waiting on that one. We're still waiting a response from Myrtle Grove from LCC. Car parking in London Harrison Street. Well, that meeting's going to go ahead now, isn't it, with the developers. Northbourne Community Centre. Have we got any further with that one? No. Land at Grieverfield Locks.
I've emailed them at least 3 times, and I've spoken to somebody again today, so we did.
And they're just not responding to us.
Oh.
Ridiculous. Right. Okay, item 16, exclusion of public and press. To consider excluding public and press from the meeting. Can we take a vote on that one, don't we? Yeah, can we vote on that, please? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for attending.
Before I go, I'd just like to say that the girls got done in months now, they've done a very good job.
Oh, yes, it's in the picture.